and they're going to have the Cloak and Daggers Terror Cape line up to make sure that that final judgment is dealing even more damage.
Lots of sort of breakdown. I do find it interesting, actually, looking at the bans that went over to Schmungus. Loki is not a part of them. They went for the Invisible Woman. Is that a little bit like a... It's no point really going there for Desley because there's not as many good ultimates to copy. Like, what do you think of the thought process?
The terror capes, as we can have a look at Schmungus' POV. They're anticipating that Venom, they're anticipating that Silo, playing underneath in the small room to make it harder for Saint-Emoto to actually find the engagement that he's looking for. And it means currently that we're in a 5v5 situation, but with Pinecone already down for Lownine, they're missing a substantial amount of sustain.
Giving them a taste of their own medicine by Saint-Emoto running a Venom right into Schmungus and Why.Andrew especially. Desley was the one to go down first, and the point is still just trickling over for Lownine. The progression is pretty good for Schmungus. The eliminations are going back their way. A disengage, not losing too many bodies, whilst Schmungus have actually built up
out him quickly. Otherwise, Kragi gets a free Galactic Legend before Wolver's got the ultimate to absorb it.
Jerky is sat on the Dance of the Butterflies, just got it online, wanted to just wait out some of these defensive ultimates that are coming in. Meteor M actually from Wolver, looking to try and find the right target, in the right position, but a little bit of cover, just keeping Schmungus alive for the time being. KG managing to take out Jerky just before the ultimate might have been potentially used. Means that this is not a bad fight for Schmungus. The contest is still there from Lownine, but whittled down. Craggy was the one that started that fight with the Galactic Legend. He's 50% having another one.
Yeah, and Lownine didn't have access to any of the Abyss. Feasts on air.
Regeneration domain, just keeping everybody alive, and it's just a battle of getting these support ultimates online. Wolver, though, with the Dance of the Butterflies as support, able to cut through. This should be Lownine able to take the point, but Schmungus have done a really good job of putting this all the way to 99%, saving onto these ultimates and just trying to disengage, making sure the Crysis doesn't get too much value. He does have his ultimate already for the final judgment.
So the Galactic Legend ultimate comes on for Kroggy's looking for any person a little bit isolated, but Wolver is immediately there. That's getting all absorbed forces. The regen domain as well coming on through from Desley as Bogur Shield was not in position, and Crysis is able to take the Stylo down. Bass Descent comes on through. Necros tries to find the hero moment, takes Gonski down, which means no Eternal Bomb to block at the Punisher.
Got two. The Eye of Agamotto there from Bogur. It's just the attention that's been split over on this objective. Lownine fighting back. They were up against Craggy's Galactic Legend, and Meteor M just buying a little bit of space, but Necros just finding people in the shadows in these little corridors to find the picks. And whilst everybody's attention, one thing you can say about Schmungus is these players as a core have played together quite some time now.
Yeah, Lownine are going to be mixing things up entirely. Crysis actually sacrifices the final judgment entirely to swap over to the Winter Soldier, which is a clear...
For the time being, but Eternal Bond is going to be the initiation, forcing out that Invisible Woman ult.
Yeah, and they had Terror Cape, which meant that they were still taking vulnerability, even through the Invis boundary. 165 heals per second is nothing for the target focus that Schmungus are able to output.
Just trying to find a little bit of a gap, whilst the diver's gone in from Saint-Emoto, jumping in onto multiple people with the tendrils. It might be a bit of a struggle to disengage safely here as the swing doesn't quite go where you want. At least you're able to get a little bit more resilience there. But the Psionic Seduction pulling him all the way back in. Bogur with a Maelstrom, catching out onto Crysis first, who has he used an ultimate at all this domination game? It feels like he's not had a great opportunity. Wolver, these Meteor M's not quite catching, consistently missing, and Schmungus, much like the first point, wailing out the storm and holding on to the objective as long as they possibly can.
Desley has finally been taken down. The problem is that Necros, just the pressure of the Panther, gets the Vibranium Spear onto the Cloak and Dagger and forces out the Eternal Bond as Gonski just needs to use the dash to create distance between themselves and the duelist. Lownine will be able to find the flip. Bogur has the Eye of Agamotto to punch through all of that healing. It's going to be up to Crysis. He needs to be the hero. This Bionic Hook needs to be able to take the Strange down before that ultimate comes through. That is the force physics. This is why you took the Invis Woman
to actually make this a 6 versus 5 for the time being. Bogur just trying to break down these shields. You mentioned the Eye of Agamotto up on the high ground. Can he sort of get the attention taken away from him for a second and jump into the back line? I mean, the Kraken Impact might be the thing that helps. He's only connected onto Jureki, doesn't quite have their ultimate, and through all of the sort of healing that's coming through, nobody from Lownine quite going down yet. Craggy going to be re-inviting himself back into the fight, and Why.Andrew has been able to find so much over on this Emma Frost.
Yeah, the force physics connected onto the eye of Agamotto, but KG had the eternal bond, which is the better sustain for Schmungus. Off the Psylocke has not been able to find anything so far. Lownine need to find much more value, and it's going to start right now. The counter dive is able to connect. Necros goes down to the Winter Soldier, and Gonski is going to utilize the eternal bond just to buy Wolver that opportunity as Terra Kick comes through. Feast of the Abyss almost takes Craggy down off of the back of it, and he will fall afterwards.
Tentamoto finding the opening with a Feast of the Abyss. And now it's if you can sort of keep resetting. Schmungus
is going to have the lead in terms of strategist advantage, given the fact that, yeah, reset after reset, you said it, and you got it right on one. Winter Soldier, cracking impact comes on through, and that means that Desley's copies are actually making it harder for Schmungus to sustain. Down to the butterflies comes out from Jerky, not to be able to find the picks, but because his health bar went low, he needs the intangibility. We move over to the point. Eternal Bond from KG paves the way for Schmungus to be able to set on up into that space. They catch Pineclone on the disengage. Slowly but surely, Lownine are bleeding players that they can't afford to lose. Crysis comes back on the Strange, tries to come in through with the teleporter, but what's he buying time for? It has to be a Feast of the Abyss, but Saint Murderous is being drained of health bar. Schmungus managing to focus via this Venom. They haven't been able to find the pick, but they have been able to chase him out. He's back in 4%. Feast of the Abyss comes on through, doesn't find anything. No, Schmungus scatter away. Why.Andrew grabs Pineclone to make sure that there's no follow-up, no potential sustain from the Venom, and Schmungus take burn in 2-0.
How strong that ability is, but also when we did see the low-key copy the Cloak and Dagger, what I really liked is that they didn't just instantly use the ultimate, they used the full duration of it. And it's not just copying an ultimate that Loki's ultimate is, you copied their whole kit, which means that you do get another Terra Cape, so you do have a lot more like opportunities to put that extra damage in on the opponent. But it's really gets more the Loki to copy what they're expecting would be a Cloak and Dagger on the other side.
Counter dive. Loki is really strong here for counter dive, plus the fact that you're going to have regeneration domain, which is a cooldown, but the value that it brings to the table might as well be a force. It's going to be a force physics to deny the feral grab coming on out, as it's going to be eternal bond from KG. This is one of the strengths that Schmungus has. No one's gone down to the poke pressure that Lownine's able to put, which means that KG has been able to channel all of it into sustainability, the Cloak and Dagger charge, and Lownine lose the Strange.
And there's the final judgment from Crysis, trying to find a little bit of space. He needs a little bit more support of his team, and he's got the backing of them. And finally, he finds it opening onto Bogur.
Yeah, Invis Boundary not going to be able to come through in time to save the Doctor Strange. Supernova combined with a Mega Hurricane, and Schmungus's Invis Boundary is not going to be able to keep healing through that one. That's another reason why Lownine wanted to combine both of these players, but Schmungus have that Strange. Bogur fell early in the fight, so he will be able to instantly set up another teleport coming on through. Necros lunges directly out, trying to find a grab. Last stand is going to be in play. Gonski went for the copy of Invis Boundary. Can they find anything? The grab potentially to get one of these players outside of it, but Necros with the low HP turns onto the Bucky, or rather the Punisher fully instead, to make sure that Crysis goes down. There is no firepower in Lownine's composition, lacking that Punisher.
Schmungus in the last map, but it didn't matter all too much in the end, as Schmungus have been able to take it. Agamotto just skirting across the sky, not being able to see or catch anything, and the eliminations going well into the direction of L9. Craggy's been really good at these sort of redemption arc fights, but even he can only hold off for a little bit longer. It's taken just over 3 minutes for L9 to get to the point of this map, but they keep things moving, most importantly.
Yeah, and they've already pushed so far ahead. Securing all of the space for the Flyers is absolutely putting pressure, but making sure that they're not within LOS of the Punisher, and that is a huge pick. Pyro Prison denying the space, adding that damage take on to Schmungus' players.
Good work that Schmungus did on the defense might be all for naught if they let this second objective flake through this quickly. There's the Fire Tornado coming through, and everybody's stuck in this corridor. What else can you do other than just burn them down? The final judgment's going to be used from Craggy, all of that trash damage leading towards a big ultimate, and most importantly, whilst it's not leading to eliminations just yet, it has split these attackers. It means that this is not going to be a clean disengage. It's going to be more ult charge as the Rage of Ultron's going to be used from Necros, and more time wasted from Schmungus on this defense.
This is smart from Schmungus. This is to have the firepower, the stance to be able to push Craggy back, as finally Lownine will be able to move forward. The ultimate comes on through. Final judgment. Schmungus Schmungus try to double shield off their disengage. They fall back into the small rooms, and they do manage to disengage without losing a single player, but Lownine want more. If his boundary gets invested, Kaiji answers the back with a turtle bomb that goes too aggressive, and he goes down.
Bogur, he's got the Eye of Agamotto with these invisible boundaries. There's a lot of little ways that you could just slip in and catch people out. It's going to be used. It gets 4 onto L9. There's the final judgment as well. That's the combination that L9 were really not wanting to go up against. Schmungus have done so well to just deal with all of this offensive damage that's coming in from L9, whether it's just holding back the S key to disengage.
Way more of their space. Firestorm is going to come into the mix. Rage of Ultron paired up with Psionic Seduction, but the Storm has already been able to combine with the Torch. However, all of the picks are on Schmungus' side. The regen domain coming on through. Kragi out of the way entirely. Up on that high ground push, untouchable. Inside the Dagger Dome coming on out, and Lownine have been able to get their way onto the payload, but it feels like it's just temporary space.
He does have some help, but he actually gets Saitamato as he's about to ultimate. The shotgun's enough. And this is going to be a rough contest. You've got the supports coming in from Schmungus to hold this one down, but because the last person that went in was Saitamato, there's no Paul on the other side. Schmungus.
The way that you aim with Loki, you don't aim directly at them, you aim for their feet.
There's a little bit of a swap over as Craggy's gone for something a little bit more boots on the ground, to say the very least. Wolver finding his first pick, which has been delayed often so far in this first part of the map, but eventually things are starting to look pretty good for Lownine. The elimination started to follow, but Craggy is always very good at turning what looks like a 4 versus 6 into a 1 versus 6 in favor of Craggy almost.
They've got Final Judgment and Eternal Bond in this next fight. Lownine going to be stuck inside the invis boundary from Deadly coming on through. It traps everybody. If you try and pass out of it, you get slowed and you get melted by the Final Judgment that Kragi is going to be able to use to bypass Lownine's invis ultimate entirely. Crysis tries to find the hero moment. Gonski with the God of Mischief tries to pocket it with the regen domain. They have, with that Ultron Shield too, been able to find the space to get the picks. Lownine by the skin of their teeth, and a Final Judgment from Crysis come through with a very fast
wanted to build some of that rage, but he also wants to keep that HP bar up as much as possible. Desley going down. Wolf has been very good at finding these first eliminations in the fight, and the last stand not really connecting onto much, forcing out some ultimates. Even the Eye of Agamotto from Bogur just missing, thrown across the sky yet again, and the Final Judgment from Craggy wanted to try and come out, but the Loki copy in Invisible Boundary is a great counter from Lownine.
Yeah, Schmungus tried to double stack again. Psionic Seduction and Final Judgments make everyone from Lownine vulnerable, but they managed to just force the Emma out before turning onto that Punisher.
Stolen.
The Garut Walls too, to be able to get the late stagger pick onto this Emma. There's no part of the map for Andrew to try and fall off of to regroup with the team faster. 53 seconds left. Schmungus have one good
damage with the walls, but a Strangled Prison on the horizon is something that Schmungus need to be careful about. Invisible Boundary, more aggressive it has to be. It has to be on the objective, but it does mean that there are players in the back line that want to try and jump into the Invisible Boundary to survive. Just as the Strangled Prison's about to come in, the Rage of Ultron cutting through alongside the Final Judgment means that Crysis should be getting a hold of this one. It's going to be really hard for Schmungus to be able to re-engage onto this. There's not going to be a portal play. Bogur is the last to go down on the point, and Crysis, giving Craggy a taste of his own money, is going to bring us to a third map.
What a play from Lownine. Strangling Prison and at the same time overlapped with Rage of Ultron and Final Judgment. They creep with the Final Judgment, quite literally shredding down all of those players from Schmungus stuck inside that Groot ultimate. We said that it needed to be long stalled out fights coming on through.
Used to playing. It might also mean if Rigsychu's going to lock in the Ultron, that Craggy is freed up to play the likes of Punisher as well.
Yeah, Craggy can play either the Punisher, potentially the Star-Lord. Maybe we get to see the Scarlet Witch Dark Sorcery team up come through. Schmungus have liked to run that composition on Symbiotic Surface, as we can have a look to see what Lownine on their defense is going to be opting for. What other thing that Rigsychu can potentially come on through is play hit scan test if they want to use it though. Invis Boundary is up for Deadly. Whether or not they'll get the space to do it, I'm not sure. Jerky gets frozen. Unfortunately, doesn't manage to find the pick. However, Saint Murder comes on through through. If the Peeler's final judgment with that Loki regeneration domain comes out off of the point though, Ryan. Everyone from Schmungus just decided, okay, we've got Invis Boundary. You might find the pick spirit, but we've got the point.
It's the royal wave of Schmungus are just walking away on this. But still, you're going to be maybe a bit frustrated if things trucked on the way that they did.
True, Supernova comes out before Andrew can get Psionic Seduction to make the Flyer have a little bit more problems staying up in that sky. And that Supernova has been able to clear the high ground entirely. Lownine really wants to get Crysis into the bird's eye view to try and put more pressure onto Rigsychu on this Starlord. They even contributed the regen domain to keep him up there. Freedom Charge comes out, gets grabbed immediately by the Carbon Crush coming in through from Andrew. KG comes on through with the fate of both worlds. Wolver tries to put a stop to the momentum that Schmungus were looking to secure. The Eye of Agamotto coming on out from his end. And off of the back of that, Crysis and Jerky, the crossfire coming on through between the Torch and the Punisher, catch the disengaging players from Schmungus and make up a little bit of time, but they have to make sure that they're able to disengage cleanly too.
Ooh, that gets all of them.
Legend gets so many, but they've still got the Invis Boundary to heal for the most part.
Craggy caught so many of them with the last stand, and the invisible boundary, I think, was only on Pink Clone that wasn't caught. So this counter-attack that's coming from Crysis, a real savior here. A nice fight for Lownine, but that's one to definitely watch back. That seemed that Craggy was able to find...
Keeping up the pressure on the Strange, but he doesn't have the confidence to use it. Pine Clone, can we find the Force Physics? No, but we've got the regeneration domain. The copies have to be broken before the Maelstrom can come on through. They haven't been able to find the pick, as Jerky's been able to shut down the space that Schmungus were looking to secure. Supernova splits the team, and even though the Pillars made some little process, it's going to be all for naught, it feels, as they're again staggering out Andrew on this Emma. The Strange is utilizing the shield to make sure that no one takes a little bit too much damage. Crysis backs out, has the final judgment. Schmungus have to be aware of it. The regeneration domain so the Punisher can get more aggressive. Wolver manages to make sure that he avoids the Force Physics by clipping his body into the wall above it, and Freedom Charge and Final Judgment come through with the Punisher trying to cut off the disengage, and Schmungus have no space to run. They've got their backs against the corner. They answer back with a Final Judgment pocketed by a Luna of their own, but the heal isn't enough. Lownine find the break point. Kroggy falls mid-ultimate, and Lownine is still holding strong.
Oh, the Supernova is in the most uncomfortable of places, and whilst you said that everything was just holding on, there was the thing that broke the camel's back.
Rigsychu is even over to the Ultron, still going to have a lot of duelist potential, but also sustain. Final Judgment comes through from Crysis yet again, kept safe by the regeneration domain from his Loki. Gonski even was able to find the God of Mischief to copy the Invis Boundary. Crysis is able to use the shotgun to avoid the silence coming on through from the Psionic Seduction. Pineclow's got his own actual Invis Boundary, and Schmungus are out of ultimates. They're out of bodies. They're going to be out of time as well, as Lownine managed to slam the door on Schmungus's approach. Point B halfway through, barely.
Showdown. It'd have to be a hell of a one to win out here.
They need to be able to find a pick onto Jerky or Crysis, because these two duelists getting to stay alive at the same time is a situation that Schmungus just can't deal with. Taking that chunk damage coming on through from the Pyro Prison. Oh no. Wolver sets up the counter portal. Does he manage?
Well,
Boger's been able to find 4 people off the map before.
Yeah.
From the side of Lownine falls for it.
We're able to get through, and the play is one that we've actually seen from L9 before over on
says they feel the confidence to go for an aggressive play. Out comes regeneration domain, moves forward to take
bodies on the point, just trying to hold things down. Rage of Ultron is going to be the opening ultimate for this fight, this defensive side, it feels like. And really, it's just Lownine holding things out. They're not too concerned about it, just waiting out the storm to an extent, as they're not too far away from having that invisible boundary and the combination of a Loki ultimate. Final Judgment for Crysis going to be the thing that starts off this attack.
Yeah, they weren't able to stop Lownine from building up those ultimates, nor was Rage of Ultron able to give them the space to build something to counterplay the Final Judgment. Not when Gonski was able to get the copy onto the Lunar Snow. Fate of both worlds, 40% damage boost to every single shot coming on through from that Punisher's side, and Schmungus crumble They're going to try and make a play for this high ground hold, but Jerky already on top of it. Same to be said of Saint Tomoto, just disrupting Schmungus' forces, trying to give them reason to burn an ultimate before we go into where the fight actually matters on the payload.
Ooh, Galactic Legend, the sort of dashes have had to go back in a negative direction, but Saint Tomoto's the first one that's going to go down. Pink Lord, I think, did have the invisible boundary throughout the whole of the beginning of that ultimate from the Star-Lord, just choosing to use it now, play it down, but still able to hold on, and actually they are getting this objective moving along, just passing about 60 meters. Psionic Seduction going to be coming in and pulling in Lownine into these fights, and it's a good reset from Schmungus, but with just under 4 minutes to hold on to, there has to be more fights like that.
He has been able to find the poke damage to build up the final judgment. We're headed to final fight territory. Out comes the God of Mischief. On both ends, we've got a Luna dancing, but it's a damage boost for Crysis, and the final judgment might be the final play Lownine needs to unlock for a symbiotic surface. Schmungus are falling. If this boundary is the thing that they're forced to take cover, and Force Physics comes out from Deadly, just trying to delay a potential regroup, but it's not to be. And Lownine managed to see the
threat. Were able to pick up. But once we moved over to the different objectives, it felt there like Schmungus, yeah, they were having some really good fights on the defense, but that final point was taken with still like 3 minutes left on the clock. It would have had to be an absurd hold from Schmungus to make that one a lot closer on the line. We can like find the answers, but it does feel like even from the picks alone, the Virtus.Pro have like really done some soul searching to work out exactly where they went wrong. Yoinkanda, not to say that they don't understand what or even looked into it too much, they're just not really that fussed about the cloak and dagger.
Well, the Wolverine can, just in the same vein as you use Feral Grab to just get out of the spawn before swapping on over to the Mantis. Virtus.Pro, in the meantime, utilizing Finzi's Doctor Strange portal, not just to set up an insta into the fight, but also scatter the comp they're against.
Fi's already found the pick onto Snaze. Triple support lineup for Sparkers, just the crazy amount of damage Soulbound used pretty early in the fight, as Yoinkanda really not looking to make this fight any longer themselves. It's an awkward disengage, just picking apart Captain America, Psylocke just trying to get out of dodge, but Etsu, at least Plax has found the opening there, just as I say it, that 5v6 turns into a 4v3. Clearing out things very easily for Yoinkanda, who haven't really
had... committed. Virtus.Pro have so many tools of dealing with it. Soulbond from the Adams, Sleep from Saipei, just even a heal boost coming on through from Dredro. Etso is finally able to take down the Atom, but Spark is going to be able to self-revive, and Fi coming on through with the Blaster Barrage is going to be able to just collapse onto Yoinkanda stacked up players. Sedation comes on out. Snaze with the Psionic Seduction, just trying to fight any space that they can for Yoinkanda to get onto this point, but it is for as Sparker back in the mix without revisiting spawn room is just absolutely dispatching player after player.
Very straightforward fight for Virtus.Pro so far. You know what I'm going to say. We all know what happened. I've gone over it enough. Like, is it looking that bad that they could completely drop out at this stage in the tournament? Yoinkanda's a good team.
But motivation now to try and actually really improve and lean into this new meta that's been established. Strange Teleport comes on out. Virtus.Pro able to shut down Galactic Legend. It's all going to be off of heals coming in through from Priest and Charge, but that's not going to be enough. Monk Mother on that torch is outside of the Captain America's AoE, and Virtus.Pro have already found the first pick.
Really good spot from Fi to sort of see that whilst the Freedom Charge was coming in, the Monk Brother was a little bit isolated on his own, churned down in the fight. And whilst it was looking like Yoinkanda might be able to jump on there first, they're even dedicating ultimates to this still, so hold that thought. Yoinkanda might be able to keep a hold of this one. There's no point in progression being made as of yet. It's still just fighting for this spot. Down to the butterfly from Etsu on very low HP. Mostly maybe used to just keep himself alive in this state. The Eye of Agamotto comes in, connects onto Free. The elimination follows from Nevix. This Vanguard duo has been played together so long, they might as well read each other's minds.
Out comes the Sleep from Saipei, and Yoinkanda just don't have the confidence. Virtus.Pro are the ones to start the fight instead.
And this Eternal Bond is almost pure ego and hubris coming out of Dredro. He has the freedom to do it. There's not going to be one on the other side. And for Virtus.Pro, they're looking comfortable. They're looking back into the form that we expect them to be in. And for now, yes, Sparker can sit on his counter revival all he wants. Nevix, the Meteor M, has just sat nicely in 5.
Going to be there. Saipo should be able to get the Soul Resurgence online as Yoinkanda go on through aggressively, but the peel is just immense. Bulwark, Meteor M, everything layers on top. But even with the Galactic Legend, and still Yoinkanda have not been able to find the picks. It's Sparker instead who takes down the Emma even through the Invis boundary. Al.Qadsiah Vagamoto. Finzi's been able to collapse onto so many of their players, stacks them up for fight and knock them down with the Blaster Barrage, and they're going to counter TP Yoinkanda's recontest touch. As if Snaze goes for the portal, he's going to get taken by Finzi.
Well, that might take some of the focus away, but they're going to be able to dive in and take this fight. Covet Yarn Amplifier put onto the objective, which means if I can pretty much take it straight back out. Finzi finds the burst onto Etsu. The comfort is there, and the elimination still all in blue. Virtus.Pro looking very clean so far. The portal just diminishing. The fight's holding on for dear life as the Eternal Bond from Dredro is just going to keep everybody up, pushing everybody from Yoinkanda back. And a complete hold, 2-0 over on this first map for Virtus.Pro, and 0 progression made at all.
The Cloak and Dagger, the secret is out, and Virtus.Pro are making full advantage of it. 13-0-19. Read Dredro's statistics. 19,080 healing done.
Find an isolated target and grab them into Yoinkanda.
Be it the Psylocke, the Captain America, the Wolverine, it all fell to pieces between the poke that came out from the Atom, the sleep CC that comes out from the Mantis, the Soul Bond so that no damage really bursts through. Fi has to be careful that we don't get blitzed down by a Terror Cape, but instead it's Virtus.Pro who are coming through with the picks as Blacks hops through that teleporter to just fully reposition into the fight, maybe cut Virtus.Pro's attention, forced resources into chasing down the Captain America for the rest of his team to get value, but Sparker now has been taken down to the bait of chasing the Cap.
I mean, it was the only elimination so far I think that Virtus.Pro been able to take, but obviously the resurrection for Sparker means that he's going to be back into the fight fairly early on. Hasn't really been that many. You can count on one hand the eliminations at Yoinkanda, maybe even 2 now as Etsu's managed to double up, but it's again onto a Guardian. The team up means that these people are back into the fight for the most part. Eternal Bond is going to make things a little bit more precarious for Yoinkanda as they're trying to get past this corner, but Monkbutter moving over to the Human Torch, gets onto the Supernova first. Psionic Seduction trying to find some of these moments yet again, but Virtus.Pro are just so good on this map. We've seen so little of it, but they're so good at just being irritating. Even if they lose this fight, they're going to buy so much time, Moxie.
Yeah, Sparker said Soul Bond. Monkbutter has the Supernova after Dredro's Eternal Bond had expired. They were a little bit late to trying to use it to save Saipe, but Soul Bond just means that everyone from VP is stacked survives the Torch Ultimate. Nevix now gets to answer back with the Psionic Seduction. He does get Carbon Crushed by Snaze, but that just means that the Emma's position is static, and Sparker takes the Vanguard down. You would be first place and still have the pick potential with the Maelstrom of Madness as Finzi dives into the back line, sees Vertigo going lower and lower.
He wants that kill so bad.
Going for the pick, but overcommits and Monkbutter punishes.
He just wanted that pick so bad that he was willing to overextend a little bit, and that might have bit off more than Virtus.Pro can chew. Black's able to get a couple of these eliminations together, but it's pretty much what Virtus.Pro have been consistently strong. This objective has been able to go behind. Virtus.Pro looking to contest this a little bit. Soul Resurgence from Saipe ready to go to add a little bit more damage onto this side, and with the Terror Cape, you know how this is going. The drop down with the Eye of Agamotto, able to actually catch onto Vertigo, who just manages to get their own Soul Resurgence out just in the nick of time. You've got all of the tornadoes and the supernova flying down from Monkbutter resurrected, so it's actually looking like Yoinkanda are going to be able to push this one over the line.
Yeah, Black's out coming on through with the hero of the moment, Freedom Charge. charging Yoinkanda's A point and letting them push into B now. But this time bank, it's miserable for this attacker's side. They've still got the protection from Virtus.Pro is almost immediate. Saipei picks the Psylocke out. Dredro aggressively sends the Eternal Bond so that Virtus.Pro can go for more, limit the space that Yoinkanda have open to them for this next push. And now Virtus.Pro can establish themselves on these angles, make themselves so hard to be able to oust that Yoinkanda are going to have to overcommit, overextend into their space.
A lot of ultimates been sat on for Virtus.Pro. Silent Seduction is going to be the first used, and pulling the Human Torch that's right in the air, just a sitting duck to be cleared out in hand. Etsu caught by Nevix. The Carbon Crush is going to maintain control for this defensive side.
Eternal Bond having used it in the fight prior. Yoinkanda have an Eternal Bond of their own. Etsu had the Dance of the Butterflies, but no! The dance floor is shut down immediately by the torch. 5 picks Vertigo 2 before Soul Resurgence can come on through. They're all stuck in one small space. Monk Mother with the Supernova trying to find anything, but 5's flames burn brighter, burn hotter. And unfortunately for Yoinkanda, they're not able to handle the heat. They're falling apart time and time again.
It's the same adjustment too. Like, I really like the macro, the foundations, just really shut down Etsu from going in for that dive. Like you mentioned, Moxie, that Dance of the Butterflies is available. Grouping up against it is going to be important. Supernova going to be used on Virtus.Pro's side as overtime is going to be triggered. Soul Resurgence and the Dance of the Butterfly lapping over each other, but the elimination's not quite cutting in this. Dredro has farmed up yet another Eternal Bond. Silent Seduction a little bit late to shut down some of these ultimates that Virtus.Pro been thrown in, but it's looking a little bit like the last point in that Yoinkanda leaving it to right to the end, able to have enough sustenance to survive a little bit longer, but they have to push this point up these 2 slopes all the way to the second point. They're able to sort of do it to an extent as Virtus.Pro are forced to back out, but they're leaving it so late on the clock.
And they don't have the ultimates. Monk Mudder's going to have to build the Supernova in super time. Virtus.Pro, Fi's going back onto the Star-Lord so he can recontest in faster, as well as having the iframes on the Stellar Shift. You can get aggressively on top of the backline of Yoinkanda 2 with the Barrage, Terror Cape into Star-Lord follow through, and Fi is absolutely unstoppable. Yoinkanda, it cost them everything in the fight before, and Virtus.Pro just sit on the comic revival.
Don't music scores too.
Yeah. I mean, I'll have to listen to those properly. I like the opening to Yggdrasil's Path. Just the guitar, the grunginess of it. It feels for Yoinkanda they need to really pull out
value it had. It's going to buy so much space too. Yoinkanda are going to have to back all the way up when they see that Star-Lord getting a little bit too close to speak.
If you haven't watched Virtus.Pro play on this map so far, it's just how many times we see that triple arrow at the top of the payload, and basically to Rio to don't be rash. Virtus.Pro is still back.
Yeah, Pyro Prison expires from Monk Mother. Virtus.Pro move in aggressively with a Soul Bond. Dreadrow is going to be able to top it off with an Eternal Bond as well into a Terror Cape, and it catches so many players from Yoinkanda. He uses the Eternal Bond to get past the shields, which would have blocked the damage vulnerability. Etsu has no choice but to go for the Dance of the Butterflies, trying to shut down any aggressive plays that Virtus.Pro were looking to find. Soul Resurgence though from Saipin, all of the bodies being stacked too close to the Psylocke. She's going to deny any pick, and meanwhile Finzi, the more players that are stacked for the Strange, the more players that will fall to the Maelstrom that comes afterwards.
It just feels inevitable. That whole like lever of we're so back, it's so over, it's now we're so back.
Into the mix, Virtus.Pro going to have to make sure that they shut that follow-up down. Nevix with the Psionic Seduction silences anyone from Yoinkanda who thought that they could find a vulnerability in Virtus.Pro's back line. Fi with the Galactic Legend also make sure that Snaze's own Psionic Seduction doesn't find any inroad to Virtus.Pro's backline. And still, like you mentioned, bodies on the payload. Objective continues to move while Virtus.Pro continue to move their players forward, taking away the space, eroding the positions that Yoinkanda could play to slow their approach down.
Pretty much down Etsu, it's this almost like peel of just being aggressive, able to chase up people that don't want to be chased. And now this objective is pretty much right at the end of its tether with 3 minutes for Yoinkanda to hold. Losing Stays is a little bit rough. There's going to be a contest. There has to be. The Dance of the Butterfly not able to beat that, of course, but with everybody grouped up, the damage is just negligible, not noticeable. Soul Resurgence is just going to flip things back, and Monk Mother, the Supernova feels like it's just a light heat wave more than anything. You've got the Eternal Bond holding on for Yoinkanda, but they're still losing players. Etsu's down again. Black's CC'd out, surviving, trying to disengage over onto Fi, and Virtus.Pro not playing with their food, but being very selective with where they're taking these fights exactly. It's only 8 meters to push things on, and Etsu at least taking out one of the backline supports of Sci-Fi. It's going to keep things alive, but it's still 2.5 minutes, Moxie.
Navix is going to fall. Spark with the Karmic Revival, more than happy to invest that ultimate, and brings back both the Mantis and the Eye and stabilize around this corner. Eternal Bond from Dridro, that's going to lead into another aggressive Terror Cape, potentially behind the entire team to catch. They try and Terror Cape back, but Fi gets phased by the Dark Teleportation coming on through, and Navix with the Psionic Seduction sets everything up for Fi. Soul Bomb just to top it all off. There's nothing Yoinkanda can do. Virtus.Pro sweep the series 2-0. The top dogs are back.
Yoinkanda, however, unfortunately not participating any further in stage 1. It's probably an omen, I suppose, of what exactly was Virtus.Pro's problem and what exactly they fixed up.
I need to see the stats of the assists. Yeah, there it is, 36. So to put this into perspective, Dridro had more assists than a Mantis.
Incredibly impressive. Just the amount of damage that he's able to put out. Like, typically you'd see if he's playing Psylocke and Slowpose over on the Punisher, that the Punisher would be doing maybe twice as much damage. Because a lot of it is just damage to the tanks. I'm just going to get healed up. Touzii's damage has to be very, like, dedicated. Make sure that it leads into an elimination. Yet Touzii was still doing a lot of damage alongside the Punisher.
Forms of Psylocke threat. It's going to be the Atom with the Cloak and Dagger with the Mantis. This is the full Peel composition coming on through, as both of these strangers are going to use the portals, not to position immediately, but to get a read of the composition that we're up against, to have a better understanding of where they need to take the fight. Are we going to see an immediate jump onto that Cloak and Dagger? Out comes the Terror Cape, but it gets blocked by the Strange Shield. Oh, the KQ for free! Dives right into All Business's entire team and pays the price for it.
Slowpose sedated, just able to sort of back up. It was All Business that got onto the objective first, as OGC holding onto the portal to just buy dead time, as the objective wasn't going to be open for a good 10 seconds. But now it's just chipping away at these ultimates. 222 moving over towards the Venom, just sort of fighting up, pushing this backline now as Touzii's found that opening in the backline. No GC crumbling under the weight of All Business now that they found those picks. It's going to be them taking the point first.
Yeah, OGC does what Dagger Dome's going to be able to keep everyone healed up, but it's the Dance of the Butterflies that you have to worry about. No picks off of the back of it, though. Good sleep into Solar Resurgence from 6 forces All Business into having to overcommit. They could have won that fight potentially with 2 ultimates, but instead they have to burn the entire ultimate bank, and they've got 1 left.
Resurrections bringing back some of the players, but it might just end up slowing down this reset for OGC. Like you pointed out, big ultimates all used at the same time for All Business, from the Vanguards, the Duelists, and the Strategists all together. So OGC having a lot.
Already off of the Punisher turret. Greedy sends in the Eternal Bond. It's going to be mirrored back with Closest in this boundary. Hachiko comes through and catches onto 4 of them, and it doesn't matter that All Business didn't have the ultimates because they're just falling apart.
It was the invisible boundary set up from Closer to hold All Business to accounts, but OGC
to stack those players into that Psylocke ultimate to stop it having value, and unfortunately that's done just the ticket. All Business lose so many of their players, and OGC win another fight in a row.
That's 2-2
of the ultimate. Still though, All Business not opening things up just yet. It's going to be a Psylocke versus Psylocke for 1. Psylocke's got the EMEA team up, and KQ is able to come out on top. Out comes the final judgment, emboldened by the Eternal Bond, but OGC are more than happy to trade 2 ultimates for the price of 1. Karmic Revival behind the point, and they've been able to bring all of those players back.
Now it's overtime. It's not even going to be progressing forward for OGC. They have to take it back, which is looking likely at this rate. You got KQ with the Dance of the Butterflies, not wanting to use it in this engagement. Really nothing's been made towards it, but All Business almost taking this first point and making it theirs. KQ tries the ultimate to seem to make the most difference. He's not going to have it for this next and potential final fight. The portal from 2-2 coming in. Hachiko does have the Eye of Agamotto, hiding it feels like to try and catch them out.
Yeah, they don't know where the strange is. They've got to go for teleport play to try and just take down closer before that invis boundary can potentially come on through. Out comes All Business.
It's 4.
Agamotto, he gets 4 yet again. Touzii's able to find Lapis. Where's the follow-up damage off of the Eye? It's not there in time. All Business come through with an Eye of Agamotto of their own. 6 with the Resurgence is trying to keep everybody up through it. KQ, intangible, but still coming on out with the tangible damages off of the back of that Dance of the Butterflies. All Business trying to have the later support ultimate coming on through so that they can have the long-term sustainability, and that's been able to win them the fight. Eternal One paired up with Touzii's ultimate, and OG Seed are going to have to rush Karudi onto the Strange and try and set up a teleport just to be able to touch.
Well, it's going to be able to, though. It's back and forth, this fight, but 2-2 finds the pick straight away over onto the Adam Warlock. Greedy nails a shield, dropped pretty much instantly. Hachiko on the Captain America, put down yet again from this Venom, who has been able to get these eliminations, chop things up nicely, but it's Touzii that's the one that's absolutely shredding through the first seed. And the first point for OG, All Business, had it to begin with, lost it, brought it to 99%.
Psylocke target ban even after that Lina Snow's been taken off. Because Touzii on this Psylocke 20-3. Right now, the numbers that Touzii is out keep that forward position. Out comes the Dance of the Butterflies from Touzii. They saw that OGC were a little bit too reluctant to face the punish.
Oh my god.
And all get trapped into the open space against the Dance of the Butterflies. No final judgment, but that definitely has an air of finality. KQ for free hasn't got the LOS for the Mantis damage boost. Soul Resurgence comes out instead. Eye of Agamotto from 2 catches 3 of them. The Mantis heal just isn't enough. Slowpoke with the final judgment is entirely untouchable, safe inside the invis boundary. And OGC, their presence is entirely invisible on this point right now. They haven't been able to find a single in, and unfortunately for them too, it's going to come at the cost of another late stagger pick. The body block they take.
Play a bunch of these sort of positions before over on the side of Zero Tenacity, and Slowpoke's just for free. It looks for free that he's able to put this damage in. The Eye of Agamotto from Hachiko not catching on to the 4K that he's usually consistently able to grab. It's only the 1. Unfortunately, it's not really amounted to all too much. KQ trying to make sure that the turret from the Punisher from Slowpoke isn't going to really catch that much free terrain. And the fight is finally going away with OGC, but much like the first point, Moxie, it's a 99% for All Business.
Yeah,
they're not even able to get it.
Yeah, Touzii's still up. It's a Psylocke one's going to go straight for a teleport play before OG Seed can build up the ultimates to stop them. Strange teleports right above the air. Slowpoke gets the absolute wonderful angle with this Punisher turret to just catch onto all of these players from OG Seed as they have no choice but to throw themselves onto point or it flips over.
Agamotto dropping in again, the 4K, and the follow-up is exactly there from the Maelstrom, from the final judgment. Psionic Seduction going to be used on the other side, but it's not silencing anything. Those guns are still going burr over on the side from Slowpoke, and All Business cleaning up this first map in a nice straightforward 2-0 fashion. OGC not able to get anything on the board on the carousel.
All Business are one of the best that we've been seeing when All Business have been in the driver's seat. 37-4. Insane performance coming on through from him. 52% accuracy on that Psylocke. Yeah, Touzii has so many different characters. As All Business, it looks like they wanted to remove the Wolverine because they wanted to put Toot on the Groot. So that we have the Groot EMEA lineup coming on through with the Loki and Cloak and Dagger strategist backline. In the meantime, OG Seed are going to have access to the Punisher alongside the Storm, just like their opponents. But they did
potentially to be making a good finish in EMEA.
Teleport play, however, All Business with that Loki have the regeneration domain to instantly react to it. Not if the Loki gets taken down before we can hit shift, though. That is panic button for All Business. In fact, they just have to full withdraw from this fight to make sure that no other picks come on through for this defense, which would allow OG Seed to start running away with ultimate charge as well as point percentage.
All the damage being done from KQ, who Definitely had the bright moments. Was the solo duelist in the last map. Gonna have at least a bit more support from 6, but that objective is moving along.
Then they can move over to taking this fight over onto point. Toot's gonna fall though, force physics. A cruel cooldown against the group player. Omega Hurricane even being invested out into the invis boundary. They're able to catch the storm as well as bleed out close as Eternal Bond. The OGC are gonna be down that Punisher, and all business now coming with the later Omega Hurricane.
These Omega Hurricanes trying to carve their way through the lines of players, but it's almost the trades coming in onto the either side. The final judgment coming through, at least from Touzii, is going to allow all business to regain control of the objective, force OGC back as well. The eliminations are still coming in. It's a little bit chaotic. They're just trying to jump into like a deer in the headlights.
To hit the cooldowns to survive the test that Final Judgment will put this defense under. Final Judgment comes now from KQ, strangling prison from 2, catches a majority of OGC's players, but there's just no confidence in the face of Final Judgment. They have to fall back. The regeneration domain has bought them the seconds to do so. And Final Judgment's done.
Agamotto diving on in, catches free. There's been a lot of really nice connections from the main vanguards on both sides. OGC winning a clean fight, but doing it in such a nice position. And this second objective going to be taken with a good amount of time on the board.
Stamping out any momentum that OGC are looking to pick up. Mega Hurricane from 6 is potentially going to get chunked down by the Final Judgment. Can they find the pick onto that storm in time? No, they cannot. KQ goes down though. Able to take down the Punisher, then the storm. The Final Judgment still tearing through the players of OGC and Touzii's Final Judgment once again slows the approach of the attack.
Another one of those big cloak and dagger ultimates. The fight is going to be used on the other side, and just as we do see the Eternal Bond used on the attacking seed of OG, it is just immediately taken down in the other end. There's enough pressure to push on through, and just past the middle point of this third objective, the Portal looking to try to catch off and stop all business from actually contesting this.
Yeah, they might be able to get around it. There are a couple of different ways that you can enter that high ground on the left, but what it has been able to do is funnel them into that position, which is going to feed them right into KQ. Waiting on that Punisher turret, the EMEA has to be the one that goes forward, and unfortunately it's not to be. They walk directly into the Psionic Seduction. Slowpoke tries to cut off the backline with the Omega Hurricane, remove the resources, remove the healing.
Wow.
Maybe OGC's frontline gets removed alongside it, but it's not enough.
Time to switch things up.
Chaotic, fluid kind of game. All business very much on the back foot. It's going to be hard to not only get to the end of the map, but to match them time-wise with about 3 minutes still left on the clock. Fight up against Chico over on OGC. We do see the Eternal Bond used on one side. Touzii's not the one that's going to be using the Final Judgment. It's KQ. But with all of that support, that healing, and the bodies, the progression has been made for all business. OGC having to just dump into the muck and the mud to try and contest. And thankfully, they're taking these fights. They're getting the engagements and winning them. It wasn't even off the back of ultimates. There's a lot of ultimates dedicated from all business that haven't really amounted to all too much up until then. Slowpoke comes in with the 2K, and the Omega Hurricane trying to fight off anybody else from OGC that's holding on to this objective.
They might be able to take the EMEA down before the regroup can come on through. Bogur manages to take the storm out of the mix. Remember, all business also didn't open up this fight with that teleport, so if they want to recontest quickly in, they will be able to. With the Strange Shield blocks off the EMEA LOS so that the heals get prevented. However, she is able to dive back towards her strategist and still fully get healed to come improve the Psionic Seduction. Both of these EMEAs mirroring the ultimate, while Schmania pushing aggressively onto both of the strategists, huddled up safely in Garage as Slowpoke comes on through. Not able to find the Omega Hurricane. 6 of the Goddess Boost tries to find the pick. Final Judgment into Eye of Agamotto, but where's the follow-up? Hachiko was able to at least stun out the Loki, but the damage is not there.
What a long fight for us.
So much pressure on this EMEA from that Punisher turret on the payload. However, the strategists are able to keep them healed up and also convert it into ultimate charge. Lapis off of the back of that has invis boundary. Final judgment gets held. Eye of Agamotto comes on through from 2, catches so many players. 4 from OG Seed, and 4 will fall off of all of that follow-up damage. All Business don't even need to use an aggressive ultimate for them overstepping their bounds.
He will lead in the line with damage, but honestly, looking at the numbers, damage numbers seem about over on this defense, and just cutting down some of this mitigation. The damage boost going to be coming in with a final judgment from Touzii, and it just carves through stuff. Hachiko coming in with the Eye of Agamotto. It's not going to matter all that much. Even Eternal Bond isn't putting a dent into this damage.
All Business, the coordination for receiver the Punisher's turret setup. It is going to get broken. Psionic seduction comes through from Welsh Mania. Slowpoke trying to play with a Mega Hurricane in case they all get run out of that invis boundary. They might be able to get the damage through off of the back of that Eye of Agamotto that Toot's able to provide into the fight. And All Business find an all wipe. OGC do not have the players to recontest. This is going to be All Business being able to walk away a full push 3 minutes 21 to 2 minutes 59. Just get so aggressive and push to that first corner that you're forced into using ultimates in that fight. Then you've got the fight in the wider hall, and then you've got the fight on the last contest as well. It's absolutely insane that we're seeing both teams have around 3 minutes in the bank.
It's actually some of the time it's been shaved off. Just seen that before. Just like for OG Seed, just 2 minutes to work with, but still, it's pretty even. Only 20 seconds difference. You had such a good showing on that first point, but when it comes to any other players, the Portal gaining information, seeing that OG Seed taking a leaf out of All Business's book, not wanting to use the Portal play straight away, but they're going to get jumped on by one that's nicely set up by All Business.
Yeah, so All Business were actually setting up not just to get returns in terms of space that they control. And All Business, they're losing some of those health bars. However, Greedy gets to come on through. The players being stacked up. Eternal Bond builds faster than the side of that defense. And now they can establish themselves, anchor themselves on that point with their strength, trying to push Touzii out before Final Judgment can come through.
Ooh, KQ's found a nice couple of eliminations before this full player has come out. There's not going to be enough. 1 minute left on the clock. OG Seed saving the Portal. Not really needing it, actually. They were able to just win out the fight in the end. It was looking like it was going All Business's way, but Hachiko has been taking some really nice fights and making sure, for the most part, that Touzii can't get that
Business dig their heels into the ground, refuse to give any form of space. Might, however, be a decision made for them. AQ comes through with the final judgment, and All Business make themselves very scarce indeed.
You weren't kidding with just not wanting to get stuck here. You could tell OG Seed throwing a lot of big ultimates to knowing every inch is going to be important here. Now that they're in overtime, keeping things pushed back, it's going to be pure.
Hachiko's just waiting for someone to extend to that low ground. Out comes Psionic Seduction, out goes the Eye of Agamotto to remove any form of follow-up. Regeneration Domain gets invested, surviving the Omega Hurricane forecast coming on through from the side of 6, and the triple Lokis will be able to work together and take down the Storm. Slowpoke is still making sure that OGC don't gain more ground though. The Storm has to be pushed out before the payload can move on. As like you said, it definitely feels like they should win the next.
Momentum's the name of the game, not only when it comes to progression, but also just the mantra to keep these players talking, to keep them in this one that mapped down OG Seed. Really breaking the limits and stopping All Business from having to try and match this. It's looking like this is going to be the end of the road for OG Seed's attacking side. But with only 2 and a bit minutes for All Business, that feels like finals. Grand finals of Ignite. If it's these two teams, I would be shocked. But at the very least, they're both promising prospects. All Business just trying to show a little bit more.
Online first, and OGC are already positioning in anticipation of an Eternal Bomb dashing into that back line. Both of the cloaks burn the ultimates. Who has the damage to punch through?
AQ's traded it up to be a 5v5. Omega Hurricane's going to be mirrored up as well. So, yeah, you're getting a real experience over on this point as OGC are just putting as much on their bodies as they can to stop this from progressing. Eye of Agamotto, not looking to connect onto anything, but Toot going to be using it on that side. Hachiko jumping in, does have the Eye of Agamotto himself, and he's going to just drop himself in again, not catching anything as these ultimates traded at either side. Now, however, All Business having the picks in order to find some space, and Touzii with the final judgment, the firepower to take control and get things moving with 50 seconds.
It was a huge dark teleportation coming through from closer. CITADEL not have the time bank to fully regroup. They need to go first. They need to shut KQ down before final judgment can come on through. Psionic Seduction opens things up. OG side just waiting. They know that they just have to wait it out before coming back in with final judgment off of an eternal bond. And All Business is going to be up to their strategists to keep themselves alive.
Oh, All Business, I think, stacked their support ultimates. So that's one thing with overtime hit. It is just one fight that OGC need, and the Boohoo's found two. Eye of Agamotto stunning stuff out for All Business. They need to make more progression on the point to keep themselves at least a 2-0. KQ has been finding so much value, and All Business now brought down to free fighting on the objective. Doing a really good job at stalling, but there's too many seeds in this garden, and they've pulled themselves a nice ripe third map to play on.
We go the distance. We go the distance, making sure that you're having maximum value when those duelist ultimates are going on off. And it's these small little plays, the differences between greedy and closer being able to hit their eternal bond sides too. So even though you don't have the invis to have guardian shields for your torch, you are still going to have good heals on your flyers. The one major thing about Cloak and Dagger is that her primary locks on. So you don't have to worry about flyers strafing around the pack, and we might actually even see All Business commit this duo squad to flank around the back.
Out for the time being.
Well, 6 is going to open up instead of a Rage of Ultron of their own. All Business is going to be answering back with one themselves, and Slowpoke has already been able to find the in. Eternal bond
payload that isn't moving, and the Eye of Agamotto used on the other side now from Hachiko. He gets stunned just as much as the stun came out from him, and now Psionic Seduction used on this attacking side for OGC. They're still getting things moving. All Business have done well to buy a bit of time, but I don't think there's going to be much of a connection when it comes to All Business fighting on this point.
I'll say goodbye. Stranger's about to get kidnapped. Off the map we go. Have a nice fall, Touzii.
No, he's not.
He's got the shift. He's got the shift. He's able to utilize the capable levitation.
Like a Looney Tunes moment.
Cliffside. 2 will be able to come back through, and at the same time, Watchmen is also able to organize themselves through that portal. OGC, though, have the Punisher KQ set up on that turret. They've got as well 6 on this Ultron, being able to keep an eye on that left side recontest. Rage of Ultron comes out from Slowpoke, but it's not enough. It's not even copies with the God of Mischief, Eternal Bond coming on through. Imperative Patch gets transferred over to KQ, who was made vulnerable by that Terror Cave. And still, OGC are denied. They have to wait out the duration of this Eternal Bond before they can look for the picks afterwards.
Silent Seduction used, but it's just Welsh Mania here. Used to really stall, but it's not going to do all that much. Probably good at being able to do this for the second and third point on the last map, and his final judgment is trying to copy that winning recipe that worked so well for them last time.
Yeah, OGC, because All Business really stubbornly tried to fight out A, they lost that positioning on B to try and shut OGC's momentum down. Bond potentially giving All Business an aggressive play into the back. And it's going to be utilized, the CC immunity, keeping the Cloak and Dagger safe through the duration of the Psionic Seduction coming on through from a Boohoo. As Lapis will be able to come on through with that invis boundary, but it's the Eye of Agamotto that you have to worry about. Your All Business eye right into the back line, and that's one that you probably want to turn a blind eye to, with all of the pixels coming off the back of it.
Chico's had some fantastic moments on this Doctor Strange. I mean, both of them, the sort of matchup that's been happening with 2 has been really 2 players that enjoy this character that would really like to play him as much as possible. So you still going to be a contest coming in from Welsh Mania. In fact, he found himself a pick. The counter-attack is good. Just over a minute left for OGC to get things going. There's All Business holding on in a really nice spot.
If he overcommits into this backline, he's just going to play disruption to make sure that the final judgment doesn't get the pocket that OGC are looking to set it up with. Comes the Soul Resurgence. There's the Rage of Ultron over the top. All business with the Loki copies and the regen domain. Keep themselves alive through it. Freedom Charge 2. All of the players stacked on top of it going to be receiving that healing from their Captain America as OGC get corralled into a small room against the Psionic Seduction. They've lost all momentum.
20 seconds left now for OGC to keep things trucking on. 2-2, a full charge on the left click is just burning through people, but actually the picks are coming on the other side. It's a Bogur that's found these picks and openings. Welsh Mania, one of the main reasons why everything has stalled over on this point is forcing OGC to use some of these bigger ultimates. Psionic Seduction and the Bogur following up to get another 2k. That should be enough to get things going into point 3, but all of the time whittled down for all business.
Is it going to be? Now it's going to be so much harder to find the connection of that CC into the backline. As Touzii with the Supernova takes out all of the momentum. All business want to remove all of the space the attacker side have to play around with. Yet again, we see the combination.
To look at, and the Rage of Ultrons on either side. KQ taking Slowpoke out of the sky with the help of the Maelstrom from Hachiko is really allowing OG to take some spade. This regen domain, fantastic actually, but it might have pulled all business into fight in a close proximity to where the Eye of Agamotto was coming from. Soul Resurgence from Greedy Nils going to keep people topped up as KQ found himself another final judgment. That alongside his teammates' invisible boundary means that this can keep pushing forward. All business using everything that they have, all of the resources, the ultimates, just top decking them to keep themselves going on this engagement. It's really everything going for them, and now 2-2 finding that elimination to bring the numbers in advantage to all business. It was looking like OGC now that in overtime they could get things just moving a little bit more onto this third checkpoint, and with Greedy Nils, as I keep talking, they're able to bounce back, and maybe nothing's moving at this point, but everybody is fighting for this final chance for OGC.
Psionic Seduction from the Bogur. Touzii with the Supernova is going to be able to blanket out the payload entirely. We start things off yet again with the Eternal Bond, but it's taken down. Closer, the heal gets blitzed through by the Ultron, damage boosted off of Greedy, and it's going to be the Supernova now for all business. Without the Eternal Bond, they don't have the sustain to keep themselves on that point. They've got to just tap on it one by one. KQ's building up the final judgment. Znos already burned the regeneration domain. He's got the God of Mischief though. He goes for the copy against the Eternal Bond. Psionic Seduction comes on through from 2, trying to pull everyone from OGC out of their invis boundary. Final judgment, the CC immunity will be able to...
It's free!
The Anna ultimate, the Eye of Agamotto gets free! The follow-up is there. Touzii trying to find the trades. They've been able to take KQ and the Punisher down. The respawns are in favor of all business. What's the damage that OGC turns to next? KQ's even coming back in on the Spider-Man, but he's not going to be able to swing in on time.
Oh, OGC.
Coming on through with some insane Loki plays. He's able to come in through with the God of Mischief right at the opening fight on C, where Hachiko comes in with an Eye of Agamotto. Closer almost goes down, but the God of Mischief...
The back line more so than the front line of all business as they're trucking things along. Welsh Mania does go a little bit low. Hachiko, the main tank, the vanguard of OGC, dropping, which should open the doors a little bit more for all business to keep this progression going. And the ultimate's out too. Rage of Ultron being stacked up with the God of Mischief isn't going to matter too much. It's almost like the cherry on top of the cake. And now with Touzii with a final judgment, if he can keep this springboarding, especially if Znos is just going to get free as the cloak with the right click, cutting on through. OGC now wanted to contest, but how do you on earth do this?
Well, potentially over the final judgment. They've got it, but all business have the actual Eternal Bond, and they've got a final judgment of their own. Touzii rips, shreds, his health bar barely falls. The amount of pocket on this Punisher is absolutely perfect from the side of all business. They had a win condition, and it's just another 9-5 for them. Point A.
Defensive side of OGC that's going to start off this engagement. And there's the Eye of Agamotto connecting onto Free again from Hachiko. He's been so consistent with them, but the follow-up isn't quite there. In fact, all business have been able to get more eliminations off the back of the Doctor Strange ults in comparison. Xenos just adding up the pressure even more. OGC throwing literally whatever they have ultimate-wise. Now the invisible boundary to just keep people going, but Slowpo's cutting through them. Closar's doing the same. Touzii's having
look for his opportunity. Dive into the backline, disrupt any follow-up on the pocket that could come out for KQ, so that all business win the Punisher off instead, and indeed there it goes. KQ gets taken down. All business's Punisher, the better. And unfortunately for OGC, now they're down that major win condition. He's got to swap over to the Torch instead of the Punisher, just to potentially have things like Pyro Prison to try and drain away the momentum. But all business
got to create space for the DPS line. Slowpo not too far away from having that Rage of Ultron, and that combined with some of these other support ultimates, even the offensive ones, has been really nice. Touzii, just off the back of this Eternal Bond, is able to keep things swinging, and it just feels like the all business kill feed is just lighting up with OGC names. It's all blue. And there's now, what, like less than 20 meters difference. Incredibly uncomfortable for OGC to try and contest.
3D's over to the rocket, so at least Hachiko will be brought back by the BRB station. That's this with the Invis boundary trying to buy time. KQ even over towards that Psylocke, potentially wanting to take Slowpo in the air down. The final judgment is the thing that you have to contest, and it feels like the final nail in the coffin. And unfortunately, OGC'd have nothing to stand up to the power of the Punisher. It's just another day, another workplace for Frank.
There's premise, I think, for this team to go on and do some good stuff. All business, at least with a top 8 finish, continuing on with the form that they had in the championship, showing that they aren't just this one-trick pony that's only going to show up once and never again. They mean business, and even with the meta changing, a team that is only able to see it's that strong. But I guess it's the fact that Magneto synergizes with literally everybody with those like Iron Bulwarks. And then
if Magneto is in the game, Punisher becomes weaker, is the thing, because you have essentially the 50-50 of Punisher can overload the Meteor M, but if the Magneto is able to come and prove the reaction check pass and rolls a nat 20, you're able to immediately chuck that one shot.
Strange to begin with, to just go for the portal play. Kai's going to be doing a very similar thing. We've seen some really nice Doctor Strange that Eye of Agamotto plays, and for these two, you're expecting a lot. The counter portal was actually going to be used to try to cut off exactly where Team PEPS were looking to fight from, but nothing really came of it.
By Rad to keep the pressure on Fi with the Human Torch, and Healis now is going to be feeling that heat turned onto him. DAP and Beetle both able to come on through, immediately catching onto the win condition. Punisher removed from that fight.
It's progressing past the third point, really, making good progression. Fate of both worlds from Lidstrom's going to be used. It's Jeff also going in onto this engagement on top of it.
Lindstrom is able to come and prove the fate of both worlds to give the damage boost to Kaya for the Maelstrom. Takes Larry down. Mid it's Jeff before he could find his way to the fire pit, but DRP are going to be taking Al.Qadsiah down before they can even take themselves over to that point. Eternal Bond and Psionic Seduction both invested. Healis comes on through with the later Supernova. Eye of Agamotto also comes out from Kaya, catching onto Aura Stealer and Leaf. The Mantis removed through the Solar Resurgence. As out surges till Final Judgment clears the space, but can Qadsiah actually find the flip?
Still no progression made from Al.Qadsiah. It was a nice final judgment to push people back, and the eliminations are still like in their favor. Now it's just 82%. The Peps have managed to get onto the...
So they can drop down if the pressure becomes too much. Terra Cape comes on further, catches Milk Boy. Out goes the Meteor M threat. Suddenly, Hardest is on high alert. He doesn't even need to utilize the full duration of the Kraken impact. He can just find the shots off the Rotterstone.
Yeah, resets not really needed, but the fight is still good now, as that 82% is now tricking to 92%. Beetle managing to take out Kaya, so any form of like portal play, not think it's going to be available, but Meteor M now thrown out, taking a lot of the damage with it, but the elimination not quite there. Psionic Seduction from DRP just keeping people away from this objective into the Jeff pickup with the ult. He's only managed to grab one, but he's going to pull him into the fire and flames regardless. Fate of both worlds for Lindstrom, for Al.Qadsiah, trying to keep things contested, but they almost just jumped up with the point. You could see exactly how much Team PEPS are trying to knock them back, but they're still fighting, clambering on to these two vanguards. Kaya just trying to find whatever they can. It's going to be a while before we see the Eye of Agamotto, and Healis just trying to cut on beyond. Beetle, taken out of the fight, is able to put a portal not only to help him get in, but to add something else to stop Al.Qadsiah taking this fight, but they're able to actually take the point.
Healis gets the Healis, means that the Strange is going to be stabilized by Larry, but the dive bomb stops the Strange from regrouping with his team. He's forced outside of the small room, and Al.Qadsiah capitalized with the meteor and stopping any follow-up from the Eye.
Oh man, Beetle was taken out just as the Eye of Agamotto was used. Artist also using the Kraken's impact, but he's just backed up into a corner. Psionic Seduction, it's not really mattering because this final judgment is just shredding through Aura Steelo. 3 ultimates used by Team PEPS. 4 actually with Larry that's managed to at least attempted to kidnap a couple more to throw them into the furnace, but they are able to survive. Al.Qadsiah managing to turn what looked like a pretty bleak fight against them back into a potential overtime switch with Team PEPS not able to contest.
Al.Qadsiah managing to win that first round. It did look Jeff strategies. Gone is the duelist flank Jeff that you would pair up with a Captain America and a Psylocke. Now we get reworked Jeff.
Just this invisible woman. Really getting a lot of damage in for free. This was Al.Qadsiah last time. Not really catching all that much with the strategy playing around.
High connection from that Eye of Agamotto. We've also potentially looking for a grab onto Kaya. Out comes the Wolverine. He's not able to find the value he's looking for. Has to immediately pop that passive just to make sure that he doesn't go down. Supernova from Al.Qadsiah forces PEPS to make a big step backwards. Hardest the space that he has to work with diminished massively. Kaya gets to use the Eye of Agamotto to punish them when they have to walk back to the point to stop the cap from coming on through, but still no picks.
Nothing's really being done. You can see Al.Qadsiah having to scramble in this fight. It's not even been taken by either team. The invisible boundary is going to try to capitalize on top of Al.Qadsiah's positioning, but final judgment from Till not afraid to be aggressive. It's not led to any eliminations on the side of Al.Qadsiah, but Team PEPS finding the picks, finding a 2-piece with the Eye of Agamotto, and the follow-through is...
But we need to see Healis' POV. He's already all the way around the back, but that sets him up to get scout checked by the Wolverine, and Leaf is playing anti-air Logan.
It's a nice switch, and it's almost a little bit of
both sides. Tilt does have that final judgment. Lindstrom with the fate of both worlds can look for the damage boost, but they have to look for the Wolverine first. Leaf is out, finds nothing. Out comes the final judgment. There is the bolster, the damage boost. And Lindstrom is able to keep the Punisher going and going and going, and PEPS are falling beneath the focus bar.
Forced out some pretty big and nice ultimates, 3 of them total from Al.Qadsiah, but the other 3 are vision. The things that are going to stop him from connecting nicely onto these picks. The hardest is the one that's just holding down the W key, mostly focusing over the Healis that does a terrific job of diving out and surviving.
Yeah, the terrain works against the Punisher. Kaya comes on through with an Eye of Agamotto, but gets Eye of Agamotto in return. Una reverse guard is played, but Healis is able to make sure that his Strange is avenged. Out comes the Supernova. Team PEPS trying to keep themselves on point. Torch dives on out, trying to peel for his invis, but it's not in time. Leaf takes Susan Storm down. The sibling not able to find the saving moment. Larry with an aggressive Eternal Bomb denies the space of Al.Qadsiah's backline. We're playing in thinking that they were safely removed from this fight, and Team PEPS are finding the picks. Al.Qadsiah are down. We go 1-1.
Fitting the theme of today, Moxie, of just very close looking at of having the advantage, because Healis has been terrific. I'm really impressed with how well he's been doing over on a Human Torch. Might consider swapping over to the Storm from the looks.
Duelist, it's going to be up to the Punishers to find maximum amounts of value, but given that Al.Qadsiah are already starting with the final judgment, it feels fitting that they're going to be the ones potentially to pick up this first flip. Although Team PEPS might be going for an aggressive tempo play before the final judgment finds its footing.
Team PEPS has taken the point first on all of the maps so far, but Al.Qadsiah forced to use Fate of Both Worlds quite early on. Should be able that Tilt wants to get out early, not realizing that the support ultimates aren't quite available just yet for the strategists. Is going to try to pull it out, break down these Vanguard shields as much as he possibly can, and it is translating into eliminations for them.
Oh, that's so unfortunate. Aura Stealer isn't able to put the Invis boundary down in time. The Invis's health bar was plummeting and did not reveal the receive the heal tick. Find the in directly into Al.Qadsiah's team.
Still a bit unfortunate on the timing, setting up the turret as it resurfaces into a low ground hold. Hardest trying to make the most of this change up, and lots of ultimates tackled on top of each other. Hardest though finding the majority of the picks, but still needs to switch this objective over towards Team PEPS' side. Meteor M gonna go in, seeing if he can find a particular cover, and he tries to wait out the shift away from the cloak, but not quite able to get much damage off the back of it anyway. Regardless, Al.Qadsiah are doing a really nice job. Terrific work in keeping hold of this for now as it passes the 80% mark.
Okay, we're going back to that min-max afterwards because that was a lovely utility, but we can't slow down because the fight is not stopping at any point. I have Agamotto from PEPS. Al.Qadsiah will be able to live it with the fate of both worlds. The sustain is going to get answered back by Aura Seal, and everyone closed on up in one specific location means a field day for a Mega Hurricane to hit. Tilt on his turret is not going to be able to survive the storm atop his head, and Team PEPS with the Goddess Boost should be able to finalize these picks coming on first, but Al.Qadsiah's stubbornness has brought them 99%, and unfortunately for PEPS, the writing might be on the wall in the next fight. Tilt's got final judgment.
DRP taking a lot of this initial damage, able to survive for the time being, but the invisible boundary is potentially going to pull Team PEPS into a fight that they really don't want to be taking. The final judgment coming in from Tilt is going to be matched on the other side, and Hardest is the one that finds the eliminations. He finds 5 of them as Team PEPS holding on for this point. Still a way to go, but that's an incredibly
forced into having to use this invis boundary to keep everyone alive, and that's exactly what the Magneto wants with the one-shot capability. Leaf kick spins off yet again. Healis tries to mirror the Omega Hurricane at the same time. Leaf goes for the interception, but Healis with the overhold, and both of the Storms survive.
Not really able to do much. Bit of a stalemate. Now pretty much having to be forced into a fight. Eye of Agamotto going to be used. Not quite getting much when it comes to connections, but it does force the invisible boundary out. Meteor M trying to loom down over on the picks, but it's Al.Qadsiah that lose people first, and PEPS are finding a lot more off the back of this Psionic Seduction. Hardest 2% away from that final judgment. Going to use it as soon as it's available, and Al.Qadsiah, the fight back was nice, but Team PEPS from 0% against 99 hold on and take the first map.
Okay, we're talking for PEPS. Don't know if they used it early because the Magneto goes for the overhold, trying to just outthink the Cloak and Dagger's utility, and then the PEPS locked Ultron as a flyer. Psylocke is going to be very happy indeed because Psylocke is your go-to duelist counter to anything in the sky.
It's looking a very dive-centric comp. Is Captain America specifically very good on symbiotic service, or just very good full stop? Very
good full stop. Very strong ultimate with Freedom Charge, being able to deny a lot of breakpoints from the other team.
Portal used to scout out some information and even dedicating to just throw off Milk Boy off of the map entirely.
That might actually have
boundary for Larry's winning the line when it comes to being available. Maluki wasn't that far behind either, but Hardest finding the pick. It allows everybody else to start dropping for Al.Qadsiah, and the reset is required from the attackers.
They do manage to take down Larry, but Al.Qadsiah's dive just has not been able to formulate. Human Torch walking forward and taking a better numbered fight on main.
Yeah, this is aggressive, maybe even a little bit cocky, as the Rage of Ultron is basically backing Al.Qadsiah into a corner. There's not much to do. It's very hard to disengage, but nobody's gone down to force a full reset. It is having all 6 ultimates to work with. Supernova from Leaf is going to be the thing that starts it, and it's going to force out the fate of both worlds. There's the Dance of the Butterflies into the backline from Tilt, but looking at the HP bars from Team PEPS, nobody is going even below 90% available. Al.Qadsiah holding on for a good portion of that fight before Leaf actually finds the elimination onto his counterpart on the other side. Invisible boundary from Maluki was available, but left a little bit late to use in this engagement, and progression made from Al.Qadsiah. They're trying to see if they can push the point a little bit more, as Team PEPS have had to get off of this point completely.
Yeah, but they just can't commit. They can't find the damage into the backline. The good news is they've been able to sideline the backline entirely off of that point. So A will get grabbed, but this is all PEPS right now, and that's really bad news for Al.Qadsiah. A composition that
contest happening to stop Al.Qadsiah from snowballing really up to this choke. So much more time has been bought in this place, and Tilt with the Dance of the Butterflies looking to see if they can find an in. So far Team PEPS have been very good at spotting them out, just throwing in some of the damage. Even there Leaf just knowing exactly where Tilt was going to try and jump in, but it doesn't impact anything when it comes to shutting down the damage that's done. A nice 2k found, and the rest of Team PEPS.
Venom has been able to stop PEPS as well, fighting around this corner. It's up to Beetle, the Lone Strange, to try and anchor that position. There goes the Venom Soul Resurgence, going to be invested, but it's beaten back by the Psionic Seduction coming in from Milkboy. Lindstrom with the Fate of both Wolves gives the damage boost to both the Kraken Impact and the Feast of the Abyss, but DRP with the Meteor M has absorbed all of the pressure.
Forced back out by the invisible boundary, however. Team PEPS not having ultimates currently, and it's trading picks now as Kaya, doing well to keep fighting, finds himself too, and he's able to get out pretty much scot-free. Leaf on a sliver, 8 HP, he's panicking, he wants some help, and unfortunately the help is on the point that also needs a little bit more assistance. Tilt has found so much value over on his Psylocke, and even though Team PEPS pretty much had him on lockdown at the start.
Scout check, they know that this was a little bit too close for comfort. Artist keeps looking back to see whether he's going to have to peel the Venom dive commitment coming on through, and he gets grabbed. The force physics pulls him a little bit too close, and he gets taken down.
Just as he was about to have that Rage of Ultron online, just to combo to take some of the attention away, might open up space for Beetle's Eye of Agamotto. Invisible Boundary also might be able to sneak in a couple of unsuspecting Al.Qadsiah players past where the payload is for a little bit more space. Rage of Ultron now available as Healis returns to the fight. Meteor M trying to eat up as much as it can. It was a really good pick before by DRP, but he can't quite connect this time around. Soul Resurgence and the Supernova from Team PEPS trying to hold back this onslaught, this oncoming storm, as Lindstrom has been farming up these Fate of both worlds, these Lunar ultimates, so much more. Kaya not really getting any meaningful damage over on the Feast of the Abyss, but the follow-up is there regardless, and with Healis, he has the Kraken's Impact that's just going to keep resetting over and over, and Team PEPS, they're just holding on for dear life, but as soon as Al.Qadsiah get an inclination of momentum, they are able to snowball this map so well.
It's just dealing now with the staggers coming on through from PEPS. Leaf onto the Spider-Man, DRP the Captain America. Hardest actually moves on to the Hela just to have any pick potential. Without the ultimate cycle coming on through, and Tilt says, no, 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 we've got to shut that down immediately. The Venom and the Psylocke combining to hit the backline before PEPS can find any form of stabilization, and Al.Qadsiah will be able...
The Team PEPS, they didn't have the kind of hardest moments of like a 4K or a 5K like we saw in the last map. Evanti was like fairly quiet. One final hit that's actually come in from hardest.
Tilt really was just unleashed. That's when PEPS lost control of that situation. Like you said, Maluki and Lindstrom as well. Their ultimates have been so good. Maluki actually got picked up for this team because of their Invis woman. Healis told me. So they're getting to play their staple pick. We'll see whether or not they get to play the game they want to go, as Teleport immediately takes Lindstrom out of the fight.
You know, one of your main strategists as well means that this hold from Al.Qadsiah is going to be tough, but Tilt not only evens up the numbers, but actually gets the advantage. Cena's going to bring, I'll be right back, is it going to bring Tilt is just absolutely sending it through Kaya.
Tilt literally sent himself through Beetle's own strange portal to get the backline that they correctly assumed were playing away from the portal. As Tilt now gets taken down by Leaf. Without that Psylocke, Kaya's follow-up is diminished slightly. as Leaf above that high ground position is able to just keep spamming these players down. Invis boundary has to be forced on the side of Al.Qadsiah just to have the confidence and the heal sustain to be able to put themselves into a recontest situation, but that's exactly what Leaf wants. He's building up to that first supernova if PEPS even need it to be able to take control of the situation.
Really good shield just come on to protect Leaf after he gets caught by the Carbon Crush. And we were sort of saying that Team PEPS needed a little bit of that 100 HP to 0 burst damage. And Hardest, with the final judgment, should be the one that's carving through this cake and looking to be the one to try to take this point over the edge. Meteor M was used and it sort of allowed this follow-up. But you gotta say, this combination from Leaf...
Just protect the Punisher. Protect the Punisher turret so that when Al.Qadsiah try and reset themselves into a position, Healis gets taken down immediately to the mag cannon and Punisher pressure.
This feels very like Beetle in just like, yes sir, I've got you sir. He's even got the shield that's coming from the Magneto to really like pocket how much value he can have in this place. But whilst the focus has gone into onto Hardest, the supernova up on the sky might be able to, it certainly does, with the connection of DRP, find the backline of Maluki. There was a real problem for Team PEPS when it came to dealing with Al.Qadsiah's snowballing effect, and over on this point, it's looking like they're able to match it in a similar vein. Tilt trying to see if he can dive into the backline, but it's the front line actually that's the one that's causing the more...
The turret just all the way removed from the fight with that damage has been able to build up the final judgment into the invis boundary. We invade as one Eye of Agamotto was traded for a Force Physics, but it's not enough. Force Physics may stop the Eye, but it doesn't stop the Punisher team up, and that comes on through immediately. Al.Qadsiah try and answer back with an Eye of their own, but it might as well be a speck of dust. Hardest
Rocket Raccoon does have the arm amplifier to work with, and there's the Eternal Bond ready to start this fight. There's the Meteor M trying to find a pick, but it's blocked yet again.
Final judgment comes out. Healis having swapped over to that storm is going to aid 12% damage boost. Team PEPS in high retreat, but it's not enough. Al.Qadsiah chase them down, find one. PEPS
He gets one, huh?
Huge pick. Lindstrom gets taken down, and immediately by the Punisher. PEPS want to take this fight. Out comes the Supernova. Invis boundary even gets invested too, so that PEPS can consolidate their performances. And now it's up to Healis with the Omega Hurricane to put a stop to the shenanigans of PEPS' side.
Very weird fight. You've got the Bira back to block, DRP back into the engagement. They were trying to stall him out. He's able to get a pick. He goes down, but just as we see Larry dive in with the invisible boundary, he's just a few seconds, a split second maybe, just behind on time. The Hardest wants to really put up the ante. Him and Leaf are finding all of the picks, something that they were struggling with on the defense. They're doing a very good job here. The Eye of Agamotto catching on to Leaf at the very least, but that's about it. Kaya is very low on HP, struggling to keep himself up with just this consistent damage that is absolutely churning on through. The final judgment available for Tilt.
That the Magneto has the play. They can't open up with an Eternal Bond into an aggressive final judgment. They need the Meteor out first. Leaf finds Healis. DRP manages to find the Cloak and Dagger mid-dash until the final judgment still charged up is taken down. Surely PEPS will be able to commit the full push. Al.Qadsiah just have a storm to get out of spawn and potentially try and touch, and it's not to be. PEPS with the aggressive play to go first. Al.Qadsiah not wanting to risk the iron.
Almost like an over-dedication in some fights, but when you're at the end of the map for PEPS, it's fine to throw whatever you have available at it.
I mean, DRP just getting Magneto through the advance of damage is getting blocked by a Bulwark coming on through, as we'll have to see whether or not a Strange Portal is going to play havoc with the time bank available for the attacker's side. Does anyone fall for this?
Oh, Kaya not this time. Milk Boy very glad that it's not 2 for 2, fool me once and all that jazz, but from what we saw from OGC earlier, we could see a bit of a traversal of the map yet again if Al.Qadsiah can get things going. And that
Healis, though, with that cutout boost on that storm, is making it an unfair mirror matchup for the Punisher. Something that PEPS have learned. Hardest is faster to the final judgment, though, even through the invis boundaries from both teams. He's still finding the damage, especially with the Yon amplifier coming on through. Healis with the Omega Hurricane a little bit later manages to cut off off the disengagement. The bunker position denied for the side of Team PEPS, and Al.Qadsiah should be able to come in through with the picks, which will at least start taking some percentage from A and moving their way into B. So the same 12% damage boost coming on through for the Goddess boost. Agamotto gets pushed off of the high ledge. Everyone from PEPS able to just dance around it. No CC, no opening coming on through for Al.Qadsiah. Psionic Seduction keeps that payload moving. Till off of the back of it, tries to take advantage of PEPS being forced into the disengage, but the Punisher doesn't find the picks. Instead, it's Leaf with the Omega Hurricane right over the objective before it can get to the second checkpoint. DFP, Beetle all throwing their damage on top of the Storm, and it's not the safety of the Eye of the Hurricane that Al.Qadsiah was searching for. They get torn asunder.
It was just holding out for as long as possible, but once that
get into a position where the poke fight goes evenly, so that both teams match ultimate economy, as opposed to it being one-sided to the defense, and all of a sudden PEPS are on the back foot for a minute where they have to take
potential. Yeah, looking to be a portal play, but you've seen this a couple of times. Set up the portal to try the turret to battle on the site, but you've also got a turret play up in the sky. It's going to disrupt Team PEPS and break a couple of those bigger cooldowns.
Barely 50%. Hardest already a full heart ahead of him. And out comes Final Judgment before Al.Qadsiah have a single strategist ultimate to live behind.
We're finding Kaya as well, so that means Seraphim's shield is not going to be there to stop much of what's about to come in from Hardest. He has been a hero for this team, and considering he wasn't on Punisher at the start of this one, new PEPS to make this a 2-0 and make their way into playoffs. Al.Qadsiah want to shut this down, bring us to a map 3. Omega Hurricane's going to try to clear the lines for Healis, pulls himself back to the rest of the team, and is going to force out the Seer from Aura Stealer. Still coming over to this mirror back, bringing back anybody that just needs that quick resurrect to bring themselves into the fight. Final Judgment from Tilt in a bit of a low ground position, so at least Leaf can back out a little bit more. Hardest is going to respond in kind as we see the Eye of Agamotto's coming out both sides. Kaya gets stunned, he's able to survive, and all of these ultimates from Al.Qadsiah. The book has been thrown down, the Eye of Agamotto shoved back from Larry, whilst the invisible boundary is going to try to keep their team alive. The numbers are about even. Hardest is yet again pulling the numbers potentially back into a neutral position for Team PEPS to work with, and Kaya just battling on, full charge Maelstrom, bursting out damage but not leading into any eliminations. It's a real deadlock here with Al.Qadsiah backing off, holding on for dear life here.
Healis back on the Magic to come back faster. Leaf also back on the Wolverine to grab players and deposit them into PEPS' waiting arms. And that's going to be a pick onto both of the Vanguards from Al.Qadsiah. Deprived now. The source of sustain. Maluki is not going to be able to build up the invis boundary in time. And Team PEPS are finding the turnaround that they so desperately needed. It looked like maybe Al.Qadsiah would be able to turn it around with the last minute defense, but no. PEPS closed the door on a potential free map.
Domination mode being played out, 99% versus 99% right at the end, and here the overtime push for a second go around Symbiotic Showdown. Good times put up, but still not good enough as Team PEPS really getting a feel of the meta now and seeing the likes of Hardest and Leaf really shine.